Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to our weekly recap video. I'm going to answer questions from last week's videos. Before we get into that, I did want to announce the winners for the Gorilla Ladder giveaway that we did. Was it like a week and a half ago or so? Yeah. Like that. So we have 5 winners. Linda Cook, Paula Tennyson, Sam Rogers, Lisa Lovelady, and Katie Lady 54. Congrats to all of you guys. I think Aaron has sent you a message. So as soon as you get back with him, you'll get your ladder. And moving on into our first video, it was 10 tips on how to have success with your sun-loving annual containers. And in that video, I just kind of sat in front of our front entry containers. They are glorious and huge. And I just ran through some of the things that we do routinely in order to have such good performance from our plants. So I hope that that video was helpful. First question was from Patricia. Do you get Japanese beetles? No. They decimate my roses to the point of thinking that I need to make netting cages for them at the height of Japanese beetle time. So we do not, thankfully, have Japanese beetles here. And so I really am not coming from any position of authority when I tell you the things that I've heard take care of Japanese beetles or how you can help control them. I think they're extremely hard to battle. Some of the things I've heard you can do are put out traps, which are like kind of good and bad. They attract Japanese beetles, which means they may attract more beetles than you may have previously had because you've all of a sudden got this attractive thing to them, but it does trap them. There are some sprays. There is one from Bonite I've seen. It's a Japanese beetle killer. I've never used it, again, because I don't have to use it, but it is a pyrethrin-based spray. It's a natural spray. It's more of a broad spectrum insecticide, though. Like I could use that spray on other things like aphids or other things I'm dealing with, and it would work really well. You do want to make sure to use those things, whether it's the natural or whether it's a synthetic chemical that's labeled for Japanese beetles. You would want to use it at like dusk, after the honeybees have gone in for the night, because since they're a broad spectrum, they will harm other bugs that are out too, so you just want to be mindful of that. A lot of people say that you just need to hand pick them and put them in a dish full of soapy water and let them die that way. That seems so tedious to me, and I don't know like how thick they come, but that seems like a chore to keep on top of. And if there is, oh, one other thing I heard of was a beneficial insect. You know how you like release ladybugs to take care of aphids? I guess there's a specific type of fly that when it's around Japanese beetles, it paralyzes the adult beetle somehow. I don't know how that works. I don't know where you get the flies. Maybe you can get them at, I don't know, maybe you can order them online or get them at a local garden center. Like I know our garden center carries ladybugs every single spring, and sometimes they have praying mantis eggs, and sometimes they have some other things like beneficials you can release. So anyway, something worth looking into anyway. And if you have a crop that you specifically need to make sure stays nice, you can always use floating row covers. And I know that's not ideal because you want to see your plants, but I have imagine like if you have a crop that you're wanting to harvest for a wedding. Can you hear the beeping in the background? We have gravel work being done on our new property, so I apologize for any noise you might hear. But anyway, if you have a crop that you're growing specifically for like an event to make bouquets and you have to have everything looking good, I mean, floating row cover does work. It'll keep everything off of your plants, so that is another option. Again, I am not an authority because I've never even seen a Japanese beetle in real life. Like, knock on wood that we never have that problem here. Joy said, your containers are just gorgeous. I know this question is a bit off topic, but do you use a starter or slow release fertilizer when planting succulents in a container or in the landscape? I'd like to give my container succulents a strong start, but I'm not sure whether Biotone or the Proven Winner slow release is a good option for succulents. I never use a starter fertilizer when I'm planting any kind of succulent. I just make sure to use the proper soil. So I use the Espoma cactus mix, really lofty blend. It drains really quickly. I think that's the most important thing. Succulents and cactus do not need very much food. So what I do is I usually plant them and let them chill for a little while and kind of root into their new home. And then I start in with a liquid fertilizer. And it depends on what kind of succulent you have too, because some are summer dormant and some are winter dormant. So I think it merits a little bit of research to determine when you should be fertilizing and when you shouldn't. But their liquid cactus fertilizer works really well for me. R said, the only thing I learned is that gardening is expensive. Yes, truth. It doesn't have to be. We do a lot of big projects and we do a lot of things just to serve as inspiration for you guys. I mean, a lot of the projects, we talk about it and we're like, would we, like, if we weren't doing a YouTube channel and we didn't, you know, we weren't doing this as our job, would we be doing this project? Like if we were working 9 to 5 jobs, or in our case it was 8 to 6 jobs, full-time? Would we even have time to have the new property that we just bought? I mean, it would be a totally different ball game. And so you kind of like make it work your schedule, and then you also can make it work your budget. I mean, you can do a lot of things from a seed or from small plants or from plant swaps. It's all in how you kind of attack it. We were talking the other day about my parents' garden, which we have let you guys see. We toured that for you. That started from like less than nothing. I mean, the rock walls were kind of there, but it was a weedy, overgrown, horrible mess that needed to be fixed. And my parents, I grew up without very much money. My parents, they worked. My mom stayed home with us kids. My dad worked full time. He worked extra jobs, like he took care of people's lawns on the side for extra money so that we could do things like have piano lessons and things like that. That was really important to them. But we grew up without having a lot. So they did a lot of things cheaper. So yeah, it can be expensive, but it doesn't have to be necessarily. Soapbox. Aaron doesn't think we can do all the beeping. He thinks the beeping is way too loud. So I think we're gonna move right inside. It's a lot cooler in there anyway. Okay, we're inside now. It's actually a lot cooler, so a lot more comfortable, although it seems so bright and echoey. Is my face looking really shiny, Aaron?
Maybe a little.
It's a little shiny. Oh well. At least I won't be sweating through the rest of this video. It's supposed to be close to 100 or 100 today, and then for the next couple of days over 100. So we'll probably be trying to find things we can do inside. Next question was from Anya. I love your channel, learning so much. It's awesome. I did just purchase new concrete pots that are large size. How do you take care of yours over winter? Do you empty the dirt out for winter to ensure they don't crack? I usually don't empty mine out because I usually put greens and branches and things like that in my containers, and I plan to do a lot of that this year. Now that we have permanent containers along our fence line out there, I'd love to do a great big winter display. The thing about those is that I'm not constantly watering them, so they're not like, you know, freezing, like expanding and contracting and doing that a lot. I mean, they'll get some natural moisture. Mine don't seem to be affected. I mean, never say never, but they don't ever seem to be, like, I don't get a lot of cracking or winter wear. It takes a really long time for them to like start wearing out. I mean, definitely clean them out and store them if you can, or clean them out, and that way you have nothing in them in order to even have that happen. But you'll naturally, if you're not covering your concrete in any way, you'll naturally see wear after a while. But I kind of figure it's nice to be able to, like, maybe every 10 years or 15 years replace your pieces with something new. That's something kind of fun to look forward to, and then you can change up your garden, and it's not like it's an every year purchase. I mean, when you're talking investing every 15 years, it doesn't seem as big of a deal. One of many says, I'm confused about annuals though. I thought you bought them and then when they died, that was it. But some of yours have come back from last year. Is that common? No, it's not. We had an incredibly mild winter. We had a cold snap in October and it got down to 9 degrees, which totally ruined our fall. We didn't have any fall leaves, or like the color was all gone from last fall, and it like damaged a bunch of our even permanent plantings. But a lot of our annuals, like, it never got, I don't think, did it get below 20 for the rest of the winter, Aaron?
I don't think so.
He's behind a big arrangement of hydrangeas right now. Aaron, I can't even see your face. You need to move so I can see your face. So it didn't get below 20?
I'm not 100% sure it got below 30.
I think it did get into the high 20s.
Maybe.
So we had that random night, but then it warmed right back up, and it never really got cold last year. I mean, I planted some things that aren't usually things that come back, like calendula, agapanthus. I have some salvia, annual salvia, that came back on its own this year. I mean, I had petunias in containers that came back. It's so weird. It's not typical for us. Usually an annual is an annual here. We never know what to expect from one winter to the next. The next video was on pruning tomatoes. We have 30 tomatoes out in our new property area, and those are all indeterminate type tomatoes, and I let them get out of control, and I needed to go out there and prune them, which I did, and they're doing so much better. I've actually been able to harvest a lot this past week, just because I think I lightened the load of the plant, and the plant was actually able to send energy into ripening the tomatoes that were there, and they just look a lot better. So anyway, I'm happy with how that went down, and I just shared some tips and stuff in that video on pruning. Kathy said, I have a determinate tomato question. My Proven Winners Good-Hearted tomato plant is loaded with tomatoes and has bent over under the weight. I staked it up a bit. Should I have provided support from the beginning? Not necessarily. I don't provide support for mine. I actually plant them on the edge of a raised bed or an edge of a container. Just let them kind of spill over because that's what they're meant for. I think they grow like 8 to 12 inches tall is all, typically. And so they just form like this nice little mound, and it might be a little bit leany because they get very heavy because their fruit yield is crazy. But I don't typically provide support for mine. And honestly, the Good-Hearted tomato is probably the best flavored tomato I have out in my entire garden. I mean, I have a lot of varieties of tomatoes going right now, and those are hands down the best. I used to always grow sweet olive tomatoes, which I really liked, and then I've planted sun sugars. My parents love sun sugar tomatoes, and I don't really like them that much. I planted one this year, and I tasted one, and then I went and got some Good-Hearted, and the flavor, like, it can't be beat. It's so good. Next question, My Life McHugh said, all of this pruning reminded me that I had a question. Do you prune your lemony lace elderberries during the year, or do you cut them back in the fall? And if so, how far back to the ground? Thanks. Elderberries do bloom on old wood, so you want to make sure if you want to see those blooms, which lemony lace, there'll be like little discs of white blooms in the like kind of mid to late spring. You'll want to make sure to only prune them right after they're done blooming. That way they have a chance to set blooms for the next year. So, I mean, if that's not a big deal to you, you can cut them at any point. And a lot of people, the ornamental elderberries, they don't really grow them for the berries. They grow them for the way they're structured and how they look, their leaves and such. So a lot of times, like for black lace elderberries, a lot of times we cut ours back in the fall or early spring and would just forfeit the blooms because it doesn't really, I mean, they are an amazing, black lace are an amazing plant when you let them bloom, but I really like them for their leaves most of all. Amber said, I love the tomato cages. How are you liking them? Do you like them better than the old wire circular cages? So far, yes. I got some of those Titan tomato cages from Gardener Supply, and I can't remember the two sizes. I don't know if it's just labeled like small and large, but I got 15 of each size to try them out. And they are really awesome. I actually, when I ordered them, I thought they were metal, and they're not. I think that the verticals might be like a plastic coated metal. They're really, they're lightweight, but they're really tough. And then the rings that go around are plastic. And when I got them, I thought, oh dang, I thought that these were metal, but we'll try them anyway, put them out there. And then I thought, well, we'll see. Once these indeterminate tomatoes, they get enormous. Once they grow and fill up these tomato frames, I mean, they have no mercy wind. I mean, there's no protection from the wind out there. And I thought for sure, when we got a big wind, it would take them over. Like they would bend over because the foliage of the tomato plant provides like a wind sail basically. Anyway, not a single one has even like attempted to bend at all. I mean, they're buried maybe like 10, 12 inches in the ground, the stakes are, and they are staying strong. And we've had real strong winds. Didn't that one storm, we had like 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts?
Well, it cracked our tree.
Yeah, it did. It cracked our tree right down the center. And tomato cages are like,
yeah,
Stalwart. Yeah, they're just like, they're staying, is Stalwart the right word?
Sure.
Yeah,
Stalwart.
So it sounds like the right kind of word. I don't know. Google, define Stalwart. Kind of want to know what that is. Loyal, reliable, and hardworking. That's a perfect word for them. Yeah, so while it cracked our, I lost all my questions. Hold on. While it cracked our locust tree, our tomato frames stayed upright. So very happy with them. Lisa said, what does it mean when my tomato leaves curl upward, creating a cup-like form? I have a soaker hose run through my entire garden, so everything gets water, but I have a few plants that aren't even next to each other that have curling leaves in them. Blooms are set, but no fruit yet. So it could be several different things. It could be environmental stress, like, you know, too much moisture, not enough moisture, or like an influx. So it sounds like you have a soaker hose, so you can probably check that one off your list if it's getting consistent amounts of moisture and it's not drying out too much. It could be an insect infestation, check for that. It could be herbicide damage. I mean, if you've had any herbicide out there, leaf curl is one of the first things that happens. And even if you're spraying on a hot day and you don't spray, like you're spraying near your plant and you think, well, I didn't get that plant, I didn't spray that plant. Sometimes like the evaporation, like it can, what's that word? It's like the vapors in the air can actually, what's that word? But they can reach your plant if it's too close and it can affect them and their leaves can start to curl. It also could be tomato leaf curl virus, which is fairly common, and it's traveled around or spread around by whiteflies. If you have several tomato plants, it can stunt fruit set, so it can stop your fruit set altogether, so you may not get fruit. It's also getting very hot out, which also stops fruit production for a little while. So It's one of those things at this point of the year you have to ask yourself, like, is it the virus or is it because it's so hot that it's not setting fruit? If you have several tomato plants and you're not sure, you can definitely take a piece of the leaf down to your local garden center in a baggie. Don't like let it be exposed and take it into the garden center. Like put it in a Ziploc bag and take it down and let them look at it. If you suspect it might be leaf curl, I would just get rid of the plant altogether, and then make sure that you're planting plants away from that area just to make sure. That's kind of how I would attack it. The next video was titled "This Can't Be Good," and in that video, that's the one where we realized the locust tree was split down the center. We went out to do some tree pruning. Our tree canopies need lifted really badly. They just have been weighed down and they just need some attention because they were starting to smack people in the face when you walk under them and also hitting cars. So I was out there pruning on the locust tree and really like pulling down on the branches so I could reach specific things, and not realizing that I was probably stressing the tree even more, like pulling and adding extra weight to the, you know, split tree. There was like a, what do you think, like 4-foot split?
Quite a bit.
I mean, it was really big. Anyway, that's when we realized that was happening. We also showed you some Felco loppers that they sent us out, and they sent us out a duplicate of one of them, so we wanted to give one away to one of you guys, and the winner is Patty Curtis. So congrats, Patty, on winning that. I think Aaron emailed you this morning, correct? Mm-hmm. Yes. So we'll wait for your response. First question was from Kathy. How often should you treat trees for the iron deficiency? You know, right now, we're just treating things as we see issues. Some things we're starting to treat preventatively. Like we know our pH is so high that it binds up the nutrients in the soil. It's really hard for our trees to get iron that's like soluble, like the tree is able to take up. So like for some of our red point maples, some of our hydrangeas, we're gonna just start preventatively treating for chlorosis just for those things we know are susceptible to showing damage.
I ordered 20 bags of soil acidifier from your dad.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Aaron ordered 20 bags of soil acidifier. So we're gonna try 2-prong approach, actually a 3-prong approach. So we're gonna be doing iron tone, which is the iron source. We're gonna be doing a soil acidifier to help bring down the pH because we probably have iron in our soil, but it's so bound up by the high alkalinity that the trees can't take it up. So if we can lower that soil pH and just keep on working at that, then hopefully it can condition our soil and our plants will be able to take up nutrients that the soil already has. We're also going to be using land and sea compost everywhere. I don't know if you guys have seen any of the pictures or things I've shared of the produce that's coming out of our garden where we've used land and sea. It's incredible. And so I think we're just going to start using that everywhere we plant. We're going to start mixing that into the planting area. And we've talked about in the past not adding anything into your native soil, but it's actually how I grew up gardening. It's how my parents still do it. They do 50-50 native soil and compost when they plant anything and backfill with that. And I mean, you guys have seen their garden. And anyway, I feel like it might do our plants some good to have some richness in the soil at the get-go. So we're just going to try that out and we'll see how it goes. But that didn't really answer the question. She asked, how often should you treat for iron deficiency?
Whenever you see it.
You know, whenever you see it, and it depends on the product. I would definitely follow the instructions on the bag because like Iron Tone will tell you how often to treat. Melissa said, probably you will not see this, but what the heck? I have an autumn blaze maple tree that I bought last fall, still pretty small. Should I be pruning it already or wait until it has a few years of growth? I'm lost on how to prune that tree as well. You can make some small, like precision cuts if you want to. That's what we're doing. In that video, like toward the end, we showed you some red point maples, which have been planted. Have they been there for 2 years now? We didn't plant them last year. They were planted the year before, right? So they're in the ground 2 years and they've put on a lot of growth already, but we're just making some small cuts at the bottom as the trees grow just to make sure that we're not having to do any major pruning later on because we do want those trees to be limbed up quite far, like 12, 15 feet, you think, Aaron? Because we need them to be in an arch over our driveway, and we do have trucks that come through and it needs to be tall enough to accommodate for that. And so we don't want them to grow and grow and grow and then all of a sudden become this huge pruning mess. So I think it's totally fine to do some small cuts. Definitely don't do a ton when it's brand new. And then just do it as you notice, like any competing branches, anything that is like errant branches that are kind of like sticking out way far. Those are the kind of things to be looking for in the beginning and take care of right away. Velma said, how do you sharpen your hand Felco pruners? We have done a video, but we are going to be doing an update video on that here pretty quick. So be watching for that. I have some pruners that are bad. Like I need to show them some serious love. Trevor said, I'm looking at buying trees for our yard this fall. Our home is newly developed, so we have absolutely nothing. Do you have any recommendations for easy care, beautiful trees? Sorry if you've done a video already. I'm newer to your page and still trying to watch all your older videos. Good luck. There's a lot of older videos. I'm not sure we've done any like specifically on great trees like that. We like maples around here. You guys know we love the red point maple. I'm putting in October glory maples, a lot of lindens. Lindens are an amazing tree. They're not susceptible in our area anyway to any sort of deficiencies or insect issues, and they're strong trees. Crab apples are awesome, and you can get like spring snow crab apples, which don't throw berries. They just bloom in the spring beautifully, and they're sterile, so they don't produce berries. Although berries are beautiful. If you're gonna get a crab apple with berries, just look for the word persistent. It'll say it next to how big the berries get on the tag. Persistent crab apples will hold their berries through the winter, and they don't push out until the next spring. And typically, like when new growth occurs, typically you don't even have any left because the birds just clean them up, and then you get to enjoy their beauty throughout the winter. What other trees? Whenever I feel like I'm put on the spot, I can never think of anything. I do like locust trees quite a bit. I like birch trees a lot. I have a fondness for weeping willows, although like they are a little bit messy and they do have to be treated in our area for borers once a year. And if you don't treat it, you may as well not plant them. But I love the like magical canopy they create. I think they're beautiful. Sensation box elders are a great tree. They're actually an acer. They're in the maple family, and they're like a tough tree. They were actually found in our area. Like this is where they originated. So they do really well here. Their fall color is just beyond. It's amazing. I feel like it's a very limited answer. I'm really sorry. We really should put together a video sometime on trees. That would be, well, we'll have much more opportunity for that anyway. Whoops, I'm gonna knock my mic off. Now that we've got such a blank canvas out there on the new property, we have so much opportunity to plant trees. So you'll probably see more of that coming up. Raymond says, can't you clamp it? Can't you clamp it? Oh, the tree. Yes. We actually have a video coming out for you this week. We did attempt to save the tree. So be watching for that. It will be interesting to see how it goes. But Aaron pretty much did all of that, and I think it looks really good. The tree looks as healthy as can be still. So I'm just hoping for the best. Next video was planting lavender. So over here on the west side, I can actually see the urn out the window right here. I'm in the room that's like right up next to it. Around that circular area we had built into our walkway, which I love. I planted lavender around the perimeter of the circle and a few other annuals. Sabrina said, Aaron needs an entrance theme song like during sporting events when he comes to help. It was kind of funny when he walked out. He was like, I'm here. But don't like encourage him too much, because I think he'll probably have a lot of fun with that. Carol said, how do you not get slivers in your hands not wearing gloves? Oh, I get slivers. Yeah. Little ones, like little no-seam slivers. I use a lot of duct tape. What? Don't make fun of my no-seams. That's what it is. I get a lot of slivers in my hands and a lot of slivers in the bottom of my feet. Howell said, Aaron, that drill is serious business. What model of DeWalt is that? Aaron will link it down below for you. Katie said, that big lilac behind you, do you still need to take that out? Probably. You mentioned at some point that you might need to do that. If you look at it, there's so much dead in it. I just can't bring myself to do it. I can only deal with so much upheaval in my garden every year. So when I've got big holes or big projects going on and there's still other things I know that need to come out, I just can't do it. Aaron would have them all out, all at one time. And I have to do it a little bit at a time. So I feel like, I mean, it's still casting shade. It's doing a good job of doing that. And I know eventually I actually want to kind of clean up the locust tree that's hanging into it and over it, take that out, and then put some kind of beautiful crabapple in that space, I think. I don't know what we'll end up doing right there for sure. But the branches will make for some really good Halloween decorations. They're like all gnarled and twisted and cool looking. Rebecca said, what size drill do you need with the bigger auger? I noticed you said, I brought the regular drill. What size drill do we need for the size auger you use to drill the bigger holes? Again, we will link that down below. I will say that that drill is pretty expensive. Very expensive. It does come with two 60-volt batteries, which is probably the bulk of the cost of that thing. Yeah, you could buy it without if you've already got DeWalt tools with 60-volt batteries. But honestly, for us and what we do, it was worth the investment, and we have used it like it's paid for itself. big time for us. But like if you're a professional painter, you're gonna buy all the professional painting gear. If you are, I don't know, if you move gravel, like I'm looking out at the guys moving gravel. If you move gravel for a living, you're gonna buy the equipment that moves the gravel.
$50,000
yeah, right. I mean, you invest in the things to make your job and your life easier, and boy, has it been awesome. Okay, next video was I didn't realize I needed color in this spot, and we showed you a couple of new varieties of phlox that are going to come out next summer. They're so pretty. They almost look like hydrangeas to me, and they just brightened up the corner flower bed where we put them. Katie said, I've been meaning to ask this for years. What's that rattling sound I hear in several of your videos? Is it jewelry you're wearing? Probably not. I always try to look and don't see a necklace. Maybe I just can't see it. So it's the autofocus coming from my camera. When I wear a mic, like I'm wearing a mic right now, and when I wear that, you can't hear it. But when I'm using like audio from the camera, because oftentimes when I'm vlogging myself, I don't like to wear a mic if I can help it, because it comes attached to this huge long string and this little box that hangs off my back pocket, and it catches on everything, and it catches on my own legs. Like, I'm choking. Hold on, I'm choking on my own spit. It makes me so mad. Anyway, like it catches around my knees when I bend over, and then it pulls down on my shirt, and it just drives me absolutely crazy. Like if you want to see me in a rage, like just come around me when I have to wear a microphone. It's horrible. Anyway, so if we don't use a microphone and I'm just using audio from the camera, you can hear the clicking sound from the autofocus, which I think I've tuned out at this point. I don't even notice it anymore. But I hardly ever wear jewelry, ever. Ruth said, what amazing colors. Can't wait to plant PW phlox next year in my garden. This may be a silly question, but do you ever have to call before you dig? You probably already know the layout of your property, but I thought I would ask. Definitely something to consider. We know where our lines are at now. Like I know where our cable line is. I know where, I mean, we've had so many projects done now that we've had so many locates done that we're pretty confident where everything is. What we don't know, however, is where all of our water lines are. And it feels like, yeah, some of them, I mean, we're getting more and more familiar because usually we find them and break them, and then we have to fix them, and then we know exactly where the water lines are. So while we know where cable and electric is and gas lines, water lines are still a little elusive to us. Our property is so weird. We've got like 3 systems, right, in the ground, one of which is viable, that actually has water in it, and 2 of which have been laid at some point along this property's past, and they're abandoned. So every once in a while we'll dig down and break into a pipe, and then we think, oh dang it, and so we have to turn on all the zones and like run all the water and see if any water comes through the pipe, and nothing does. So then we figure that's just an abandoned pipe, this is part of an old system, we need to move on. It's just the weirdest thing. I would like to see like a cross section of our property.
Yeah,
like
nice.
Just, yeah, I would like to be able to see x-ray, like what is going on underneath the soil here. It is a really difficult thing to figure out. But definitely, like if you are new into your home and have never had locates done, or you're digging a big hole for something, it's never a bad thing to call the dig line and make sure you're not gonna hit anything.
Not only is it not a bad thing, it's also required by law.
Oh, it is so okay. Naya said, will phlox color change based on the soil acidity like hydrangeas do? No, they will stay true to the color that their variety is from year to year. Also, how in the world do you stay so clean while planting in white? I always look like I've rolled in a dirt pile. I've actually seen that question come up quite a lot lately, and it's probably because it's just getting so hot. I think I'm acclimated. I mean, I've always gardened in long hair. I'm used to it because it protects my neck, my ears, and oftentimes my face, because it's kind of like hanging in my face. And I am used to it. We also don't have any humidity here, and that is a game changer. I don't know how you guys do it in humid climates. I would be a puddly, dirty, sweaty, frizzy mess. I have naturally curly hair, so it would just be like, I would be a wreck. I have mentioned before that sometimes for some projects, I will wait like 5 minutes between when I'm done with the project. I'll go find a shady spot and I'll just like lay in the grass. Just lay down in the grass and just let myself cool off, let the sweat dry, and then I put the camera back up. And that's, I mean, what you see is actually what it looks like after I'm done. I think over the years we've gotten more efficient. Like right now, Aaron is using the auger to dig all the holes for me since I'm pregnant, and the doctor told me not to do anything way like really physical. So he's been doing all the hole digging, so that does help, and he dug the holes for me in this video. So I wasn't down doing that, but I think I've like figured out how to position my body to where I don't get quite as messy as I used to. I still get messy though, but I did see some comments somewhere. Somebody said that I must have a team of people. And while we have a great team of people to help us with other things around the house, like you know, helping us with weeds and some maintenance out in the yard and things like that. I do not have a beauty team. That's not what I'm about. I have nobody helping me do any of that kind of business. Like I am very, very low maintenance in that department for the most part. So anyway. Next question, aren't you going to remove those flower beds to extend the lawn? I don't think we'll have to remove those. I think we'll be able to gently transition, like the back part of that flower bed may become a little bit deeper in flower bed, and we'll kind of like around the back side of the blue spruce, we'll broaden it out and kind of meet it back to our lane that comes up to our house. It's super hard to explain, but it'll all be a big flower bed, and then the rest of it will be grass going out into the new property. I kind of have it sketched out, but it's kind of everything's subject to change right now. But that flower bed will stay. And last question on that video is, when will there be a new garden tour? I'm curious to see some updates about the brick circle, the new flower bed around the big tree in the Hosta garden. Soon. In fact, this morning we did like a mini tour of a couple flower beds that look really, really good. And we were going to, like, I kind of almost thought we could do it today. I don't know, for the next couple of days, it's supposed to be 103 degrees.
There's a lot of noise going on.
Yeah, we'll probably wait until it cools off just a little bit. And there's a ton of work going on right now. Like there's construction right behind our vegetable garden. And we also have some projects being worked on here, like gravel lane being put in. And that's why we had to move in here, because it's just so loud. So we'll probably wait till the activity level is a little bit lower, and then we'll film a full garden tour. I know we owe you guys one at this point. And the last video from this week was adding a new shade perennial to my garden. So it started out with me wanting to add in some pulmonaria to the area underneath our crabapple tree up in our front yard, because that flower bed will probably stay, or some manner of flower bed. It may extend, it might change shape or whatever, but I love that tree so much, and I like the fence section and everything. Anyway, that project snowballed into adding the pulmonaria plus a bunch of other annuals. It looks really pretty. But Terry Byers said, how is this flower bed watered? By sprinkler water, which is super not ideal in our area, and it looks pretty good. Yeah, like, I don't know if it's because the sun is not drying the water, maybe. Do you think that could have anything to do with it? The sun isn't drying the water like that on the leaves, so it has a chance to like roll off. I don't know. We don't deal with a ton of water spot issues under there. A little bit on the hostas toward the end of the season. They look like a little bit dusty almost, even though it's not dust, it's hard water. But yeah, sprinkler water for that one. And then we do watch it every day. We walk by it, look at it, make sure nothing needs a little bit of extra hose water. Trevor said, do you spray your hostas with protection so the insects don't eat the leaves? No, we do not deal with a ton of issues on hostas here. A little bit of slug damage here and there, which I use the bug and slug killer for, but I only apply it if I notice a problem, which is rare. My biggest nemesis with hostas is hail. We typically get some pretty good hailstorms in the spring, usually when they're just newly emerged and it's before the leaves on the trees have fully emerged. It's weird. It's like they're not as protected, and that's when the hailstorms come through, and that's what I worry about the most. That and really strong winds can really tatter them up. Meredith says, does your kitty have an extra toe? Yes, Russell is a polydactyl. He has not only 6 toes, he's got like an extra little nubbin in between. So he's got an extra, like a thumb, but he also has like a little extra one in between. It's really weird. And one of them's bigger than the other. Oh, I remember when we first got him, I was like, I don't know if I can get used to this. And now I think it's pretty cute. When he does happy feet, it's like this, and I can feel his thumb on me. It's weird, but it's cute. Shelly said, noticed you put on gloves. Did the pulmonaria make your skin itch? It makes mine itch like crazy. I actually didn't even think about it. Did I wear gloves in that video? I was trying to be like diligent with my skincare that day. I haven't noticed pulmonaria making my skin itch, but I can see where it would, because it is kind of scratchy and rough. I don't know if there's anything like about the leaf that is an irritant at all. I haven't heard that, but it does have that kind of scratchy feel. Teresa said, do you ever respond to comments and questions? Right now. I know that I see that quite often. There is no humanly possible way that I could respond to every comment and question that are on our videos and on our posts. I mean, we post a lot. We post 6 days a week, plus we post a video on our highlights channel, if not 2 a week. And then I post usually 2 or 3 times a day on Instagram, which also goes onto Facebook, which means there's just a ton of comments. And I do read through comments. I just don't, like, we were doing the math the other day, like how many minutes there are in a day. And if I took just 1 minute to respond to every comment, which oftentimes it takes a lot more time than 1 minute. I mean, I'd hate to respond generic. I see that sometimes. I see like some accounts where people are really diligent about getting back with people, but it's just like quick canned responses, and I don't want to be that. I don't want to do like, I don't want to be that where it seems insincere. And so every once in a while I'll spend a little time in the comment sections if I have some downtime, and I'll answer questions. But that's why we started this recap, because I wanted to be able to respond to some of the most asked questions, but I just don't like physically and mentally have enough time. Like I don't have the brain space and I don't have the time every week to answer everything all the time. And I'm really sorry about that, but we do try to answer, like address questions either in recap form or in other videos. If I see it like a lot of questions about, I don't know, what's something we get a ton of questions about?
Bloodworms.
Budworms, yeah, then we'll put together a video specific to that. So anyway, that's how we try to do it. The Jake says, I feel like I don't see any ferns in your shade gardens. Do you have any, or do you avoid them for some reason? I love ferns, and I've got several. I planted 5, can't even remember the name of them, up here underneath our honey locust tree this spring. I also planted a whole flat, so 18 sword ferns, yeah. Around our back sun porch area, I planted 3 crested ferns over here. I planted some other ferns. I planted ostrich ferns in our front containers. I planted 2 other ferns by our kitchen bed. I like ferns, and they do fairly well for us as long as we have consistent moisture and a shady spot, and I would like to amp up the amount that we have, but you're right, I probably haven't showed them very much. Some of them are fairly new. So anyway, yeah. And that was it. That was all the questions from this week. So yeah, any other thing that I should say, talk about? I think I got everything. So that's it for today's recap video. Thank you guys so much for all of the questions. Got some good ones this week, and I hope you all have a really good week, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.